Imperium of Kaladan. Oh, hello there again, traveler. I wasn't expecting you. Well, since you keep coming to me, I guess you want some tips on your next destination. So which land are you planning to visit next? Kaladan. Yes, I know some things about it. Let's begin with a quick history lesson. Kaladan is the kingdom of dragons, ruled by dragons, for dragons. But you and I can live in their kingdom as servants. The realm is ruled by a handful of dragon houses, and those houses swear fealty to the Drake Empress. The serpent rulers control many vassals and command great armies, and finally, they themselves are demigods in a mortal world. If not for a devastating war, Kaladan would be the only empire. So how did they emerge? And how is it that they only control a single corner of the world? I do not know where the dragons came from, but I do know of an old record from the broken Vivinian Empire. It spoke of a hollow mountain. The mountain was located to the east of the empire, and in it a great spire of gold, silver, priceless metals, diamonds, crystals, all the riches of the world in one place. It sparked a massive expedition to venture forth and plunder the mountain. A few years later, dragons came and attacked the far eastern regions of the empire. This is the only record we have about the dragon's origins, and if you say that's not a lot, you're absolutely correct. But there are other explanations from where the dragons came from. However, these are all from the Caledonian rulers, the dragons themselves. So what do the sky rulers say about their history? The Caledonian rulers say that they always existed and merely slept through the ages, content and isolated, until their god commanded them to shepherd the world and lead it to a golden age. The dragons awoke and took over the far eastern realms and quickly made plans to invade the rest of Vuxla lands. Their expansion was stopped by trickery and manipulation from the Guardian Crusaders. You see, when the dragons first came, the Vuxla kingdoms were at war with a Dark Lord that emerged from the arcane wastelands. The Guardians managed to trick the Dark Lord and his monstrous horde to chase them northwards, directly on the warpath of the dragons. What followed was the great battle of might, magic, and mind. The dragons had all the strength in the world. The Dark Lord, with a twist of his hand, commanded arcana so mighty it ripped armies to dust. But the Guardian Crusaders, with their cunning and strategy, tricked them both into destroying one another. The Serpents of Destruction suffered heavy casualties, yet still managed to kill the Dark Lord. However, with his dying breath, the Dark Lord cursed the blood of dragons. You shall not have the world in your talons, but what you have is all you shall have. Not one more realm. After the battle, the dragons pulled back from their conquests and regrouped. When they once more tried to go south or further west, a strange illness suddenly befell them. The dragons' minds became filled with blind hatred, and they turned on one another. Once they had finished killing one another, the survivors gathered in a ruined city to the east and studied the strange occurrence. It was as the Dark Lord spoke. An invisible barrier was erected across their borders from one end to the other. And so the mighty dragons became prisoners in their own realm. Years passed and the dragons built a stable kingdom. The serpents formed great legions commanded by the most loyal generals. And the sky rulers govern, protect, and provide for their subjects, treating them as extensions of their horde. The following centuries were prosperous for the new empire. The remaining dragons split into houses, and one amongst them emerged as the dominant one. A simple caste system was implemented. The dragons were on top and everyone else was beneath them. Kaladan sent diplomats to the surrounding nations to open up trade. Initially unsuccessful, a couple of decades later, foreign merchants flowed in and out of Kaladan. In addition, several new religions emerged in the wake of the dragons' domination, worshipping them as gods. The dragons formed a state-controlled church to more easily command the masses. The vastness of Kaladan gave it a variety of different cultures on a local level. This wouldn't do for the Sky Rulers. This was some of the last sparks of independence who needed to be snuffed out. The dragons controlled the army, the bureaucracy, and the faith of the people. But old stories of ancient gods and heroes can still inspire rebellions. The Sky Rulers sent out acolytes, bishops, and priests of their church to travel the realm and change the narrative of those stories. Gods became replaced with dragons or draconically empowered champions. Folklore heroes were made to be dumber yet more virtuous and obedient to the dragons, all to fit the new picture. Dragons are divine and good. Mortals trying to oppose them are evil. Once its eternal affairs were settled, they would repeatedly send their armies to conquer the rest of the world, one kingdom at a time. But this is a slow process since the veil prevents the dragons from leaving their borders, forcing them to pick a humanoid to command their troops. Luckily for them, or unluckily for us, they now have two choices. In the meantime of building up their empire, the Sky Rulers made experiments to bypass the madness barrier. Although this led to interesting results, it was a Pyrrhic victory. The caste system changed from 2 into 3. Dragons on top, unwashed masses at the bottom, and dragon-blooded in the middle. This is an umbrella term referring to individuals that have been enhanced by the dragons. There are 3 types of them. First are the Vinomindraku, that have their bodies altered through magic in an attempt to turn them into dragons. The result was a humanoid creature with drake eyes, random spots of lizard scales, and a breath weapon. The next attempt was to produce a mixed offspring with the masses, half dragon, half other. The result was Dracoamina. These beings look like a humanoid dragon, but with shriveled up wings, a tail either too big or too small, no breath weapon, and they come in inconsistent sizes. Sometimes they are normal human height, other times they are like dwarf runts. Dracoanevi. These are the most powerful of the dragon-blooded caste. They are normal humanoids that have survived the trials. What are the trials? I don't know. The only time the trials are ever mentioned is when a fresh batch of them presents themselves to the royal court. Every few years, the representatives of the different houses gather in the capital to debate which house the fresh faces will join. The Dracoanevi look like normal humanoids with not a single visual difference. However, they possess a unique power to transform into dragon chimeras. Now I would describe how they look, but I can't. Everyone is a unique individual. Let me tell you about 3 of them. The first one has the body and head of a stag with sharp teeth, the tail of a snake, no wings, its breath weapon was lightning, and in addition, its antlers could contain electricity that would hit any creature standing too close. The second was a giant snake with no limbs or wings but could tunnel through sand and dirt with incredible speed, and its breath weapon was vomiting out lava. Now for the last one. It has the body and head of a wolf, the tail of a scorpion, and its front limbs double as its wings. Finally, it has no breath weapon. I hope you now understand why I cannot give a general description of the Dracoanevi. The duties of the second caste are mostly to do with bureaucracy, being the head of big guilds, or governing towns, armies, or really any position of power that the dragons don't want the commoners, the peasantry in. Now about the two choices I alluded before. Vitamin Draco and Draco Amena are immune to the madness barrier. It most often falls to them to slowly expand the Empire's reach by dominating their neighbors and establishing vassal states or puppets. As for Dracoanevi, the barrier for some reason considers them too dragon-like to let pass, although the curse seems to affect them more slowly than the true dragons. Now you told me that you are planning to travel through Kaladan, so now I'll give you a traveler's guide and hopefully avoid some of the errors I made when I first crossed the border. Approach Kaladan borders by first going through their vassal states that exist outside of the madness barrier. It will help with the paperwork. At the end of the paperwork, you will receive a document, a permit to travel Kaladan for a certain period of time. Do not overextend nor lose them. Otherwise you will fall in jail. Second, do not mock or insult the state church, it will land you in jail. Thirdly, since you are not a part of any guild nor an independent merchant but a traveler, do not try to speak to any of the second-class bureaucrats. You are an honorary member of the third caste. And so I told you their history, their governing, and the madness veil, as well as the dragon-blooded. I believe that's everything important. Safe travels, stranger.